You're listening to Chaotically Disciplined with your host Shannon and Zaida, two goofy real-life rave moms where we chat about fitness, parenthood, and our love of music festivals.
We'll show you that you can have mid-time management skills, occasional meltdowns, and be disorganized as fuck, but still always get shit done. Hi guys, welcome to episode 1. I am Shannon. On social media, you can find me under Fit to Rave. I help EDM artists, their teams, and fans stay strong, confident, and show ready. I train EDM artists and ravers. I've been a personal trainer since 2020. I am 40 years old and a mom of 3, and Zaida is my cousin. So I'll let her do a little intro, and then we'll continue to talk more about the whole purpose of why we wanted to do this.
Hey guys, I'm Zaida. I'm a physical therapist and a Pilates instructor, and definitely a nerd about all things related to movement. And this is how me and Shannon bind kind of our ideas and like our professions. We meet in the middle. We work together. I'm, giving her ideas for physical therapy related things, but she's also my trainer, holds me accountable, and I love being a part of her Fit to Rave team, whether I'm going to festivals or not. So it definitely has been a collaboration that has been in the works and kind of in the background. And now we're just coming here together to bring forth our ideas and hopefully things that people can relate to in regards to being moms and gym rats.
Yeah. So this episode is kind of just going to be an introduction of the podcast itself, like who we have in mind when we wanted to start this project, who, like, our relationship together, who we are, and then kind of who we are as people, our viewpoints in general when it comes to like our jobs and stuff like that. So me and Zaida are cousins. I'm her older cousin. How old are you now?
Wide one.
How old are you, Zaida?
30. Just kidding. I'm 33.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember exactly the age difference, but she's like another little sister to me, one of my best friends, and technically kind of a business partner in the background. As a trainer, right now I'm currently running my business. It's a one-woman show, but there are plenty of things that my clients will bring to me or issues that they have that are beyond my scope of practice. So having a physical therapist who I trust and rely on and defer to for information has been really, really helpful. And that's what Zaida is for me and my clients, and her husband Craig does the same thing. So, from a business standpoint, this is my cousin, the physical therapist. So now everybody can put a face to that name. But more than that, this podcast kind of, we're so fucking goofy.
Oh,
We're so goofy, and we chat about things during conversations, whether it has to do with fitness, motherhood, raving, and festivals, that we would have these phone conversations and be like, this could be really beneficial to share with other people. I think it would hit other people the same way. So we should probably turn these ridiculous phone conversations into like a platform that other people can consume, if nothing else than just to laugh. But I feel like we do have valuable information that could benefit people, because what I find a lot as a trainer or a mom even is people get frustrated because they feel like they're doing it wrong if it's not perfect all the time, or type A, or extremely organized. And I am not a perfect mother or someone who has a perfect fitness routine by any means, but I have been able to see a lot of success, and I feel like my kids are doing okay, kind of just figuring this fucking thing out as I go. Being extremely disorganized. I have been a lifelong procrastinator, but I was always a straight A student. I always figured out how to get my shit done, and I work really well under pressure. And again, I'm 40 years old, so as much as I would love to be more organized, and I try,
I try.
I try, it's not really happening. Like, I don't even think I'm type B, I'm type C, maybe. Like, it's a mess, but it's gonna get done. It's gonna get done, and it's gonna get done well. So, and you're the same way. So here we are.
Yes. There are some things that have had to shift for sure where it's like, okay, I matured a little bit in that I've had to get some of my shit a little bit more together in order to manage a child. And I have one on the way. And that's been helpful for me, but I can only be so ritualistic to a point. And then I start to feel like robotic and like, fuck this shit, I'm out. And so it's just that if you're a type A person and you get shit done the way you get shit done, that's awesome. But I think it's cool to know that if you need to take a break and take a step back, you can also be a little, easier on yourself, do things differently, and still manage to achieve your goals, whatever they are. You know, you
Yeah.
go through seasons of that too, where things shift, where you might be a little bit more put together in a certain way, but then life happens, knocks that box down, and you have to restart and totally like pick it up from scratch.
Yep. Yeah, when we were kind of doing the practice filming before we decided to, you know, just go ahead and do the thing, um, we were we've been working on this for a while. Again, because we're so fucking disorganized and we have so much shit going on, like with our own actual jobs and our children and our lives and all that stuff. Um, this has been something going on for a while. So like when we came up with the name Chaotically Disciplined, I couldn't even remember how that started. And you reminded me that it was because I think I did like months ago, either at the end of last year or the beginning of this one. I'd have to look, but it was one of those like chat GPT prompts where like you ask it to, I think, nicely roast you or something like that. It's supposed to roast you, but like in a nice way. And so I like gave it my Instagram page for it to roast me. And one of the ways it described me was chaotically disciplined. And I was like, can't even get mad at that.
Right.
And you agreed. And I was like, bitch, you're the same way.
Yes, I saw you post that and I was like, I love me
I was
too.
like, you know who else is like that? Just like that.
Yeah.
And so then when we had already had the idea to do a podcast together before that, because when I saw that line, I was like, oh, that would be a cool tagline for merch. And then I was like, you know what that would be better for is the podcast we keep saying we want to do, because that's a perfect description of both of us. It's a great description of how we operate with everything, with motherhood, with fitness, with business idea, with everything, like chaotically disciplined. Like we are disciplined people, but it's not in at all in the type A organized fashion. It's a fucking like hot mess. It's
It is.
chaos.
I will say though, I think that even like type A moms, motherhood does add that layer where
Hmm.
even if you are quite organized and like all those different things, it's still chaotic. You can't
Yeah.
ignore or totally avoid the chaos. It's coming for you and you got to be suited up basically.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, you're right. Like it's definitely an atypical way that we run the show. And I just think in general, moms are going to be able, hopefully, to resonate with us because whether, you rave or not, it's nice to have a little you time. And like that's something that we both preach is finding ways to take care of yourself physically, but also to take care of your like passions and hobbies and what like resonates with you. And it takes one to know one, especially if you're a raver. If you're not a raver, it's cool. Maybe you still like music, but like doing something that you just enjoy for the sake of enjoying it, for the health of your relationship, for the health of you, so then you can come back to your children feeling like restored and not being a martyr and never doing anything again for yourself because that eventually makes you a less good version of yourself. Like
Hmm.
you're gonna come to a point where you're gonna burst and having,
Yeah.
the festival music experience or whatever it is that is, what vibes with you, it allows you to reset and like actually come back to earth a little bit.
Yeah. And like while I realize most of my clients are women and most of my followers are women and most people that will probably end up listening to this podcast are women or moms. Like this is for parents or it's for everyone in general. Like if you're into fitness or festivals or you're a parent, like it's it's hard balancing taking care of yourself physically and mentally, doing the things you love and trying to like fit that in on top of parenthood. And like again, you don't have to be all three of these things for like the stuff we're talking about to apply to you, but that is kind of who this is for. Again, even if you're not a parent, it's not like we're not including you in the conversation or the direction of like what we're talking about. you could just be someone who's really fucking busy with a lot of shit, and it's really hard for you to balance the stuff that you love with taking care of yourself, you know? So yes, we are both mothers. So that is what the conversation is going to be a lot about. Like, how are we balancing all of these things? Taking care of our kids, having time with our spouses, taking care of our physical health, doing the things that we like, going to festivals and shows without feeling guilty. Like, why is all this stuff important? So that whole constant juggling act that we do, like that's kind of the whole idea of talking about this, is sharing our knowledge on the things that we know, but then just general experience and our opinions on like how you can do it, and how sometimes maybe we don't feel like we're doing it well, but how we push through those things. So yeah, that is the gist of all of the stuff that we'll talk about in episodes to come. And it won't always be everything all at once. Like, the episodes will be like, oh, this is just gonna be about this like one thing. Um, but yeah, that's why we're here. So I guess.
I agree with you on the point too about it doesn't have to apply to parents like only because even if you're like in a relationship or single and you have some your own little business baby or like
Mhm,
thing that requires a lot of your effort and energy at the end of the day, like how do you change your mindset to be able to fit in time for yourself, whether that's about your health or about just enjoyment of life somehow. So
yeah, because it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff.
mhm.
So I guess really what would make the most sense now is to kind of give like a little history of each other and kind of like how we got to this point. So I guess for me, again, I am 40, closer to 41 at the end of the year. Yay. No, like I embrace it. Like, something happened as I approached that, where I really honestly like stopped giving a fuck about a lot of things that I was trying to not give a fuck about in my 30s. I've talked to other people my age or that have already arrived, and they all say the same thing. It's like right before it happened, and like once they got there, it was like they just don't really feel like taking shit anymore for people.
It sounds fantastic. I
And
can't
it's
wait to
funny
get there.
because
Yeah, I love that perspective though, because it definitely, when I was growing up, always had this like almost like a just a lack of a timeline to understand what happens past 30. It was like you go to school, you have a marriage, you have your kids, and then that's it.
uh-huh.
Like there's way more beyond that. And you don't get that until you're in your 30s and you're like, 30s are great. Like I still can look cute. I still can
Well,
go out.
that's the thing, like, that was kind of one of the shifts that I had when I turned 40, was when I so as disorganized and chaotic as everything is that we'll get into, I still was pretty good at sticking to, like, the timelines I set for myself. Like, I got married really young, so I guess I'll kinda do my little history, lesson now. I'm originally from Texas, born and raised in San Antonio, married my high school sweetheart. I met him when I was a freshman in high school and he was a senior, and we both went to 2 separate colleges. They were both in Texas. He went, to college in San Antonio, and I went to one in San Marcos. I went to Texas State in San Marcos, which is, like, a little bit south of Austin. So we saw each other every weekend, but we weren't at the same college. He commissioned in the military and left, so most of our engagement, I think we saw each other, like, 3 times for our whole engagement, but my first goal was, "You're not getting married until you get your degree, like, you're just not." So I got married at 21, which is still really, really young, but I got my degree. I got my degree as fast as I fucking could because he was older than me and left, and I wanted to be with him. Um, I took, well, as many hours as I could every semester, summer school every year. I graduated high school a year early. Like, I mean, I was on like hyper speed. No regrets. Like, obviously it worked out, well for me. But yeah, I got married at 21, and then my next goal was like, okay, when I'm around 25, I feel like that's a good age to start having kids. Like, I want us to be married a couple years and just kind of like do our own thing, and had my first kid at 25, and then my next goal was be done by 30. We wanted to have 3 kids, so I'm like, let's be done by 30 so you can like work on yourself in your 30s. You can be, the hot mom in your 30s. Like, you spend your 30s, like, looking good and not being pregnant and breastfeeding kids and stuff like that. Had the last kid at 31, a little bit late, but had the last kid at 31. But yeah, so, in my brain, I was like, "You gotta spend your 30s, that's when, go back to working on yourself and not being pregnant, doing the mom thing." Like, I was fortunate enough to be a stay-at-home mom. I did work in my field of graphic design and illustration. That's what I got my degree in. I did that for a couple years before having kids, and then when I had our daughter, the first one, I did it for a little while from home, then just was completely, like, freelance. Every once in a while would do stuff. Um, had, jobs and stuff in the fields, but once I had kids, predominantly just, like, stay-at-home mom stuff. Um, but my brain was like, "You'll have your 30s," and because then it's all downhill from there. That's how I thought, and so, like, I ended up really falling in love with fitness as I know it today because of festivals and raving, which you brought me into. So, again, these are all tangents that are gonna make sense. Um, and that changed. That was a completely different career path. Like, I was an art kid and a band nerd in school, not athletic. I'm still not athletic. Like, I think people think that when you're a trainer, you, like, have to be athletic, and most of them are, but I am not. I just pick everything's up and put them back down over and over again. Like, that's about all. Coordination, no.
Well, I saw you with the basketball then
Huh?
at the arcade, the basketball hoop. You got this.
Oh, yeah, take me to Dave& Buster's, I guess I can, sh
Shoot some hoops.
play some hoops. Um, but yeah, I think that I didn't even go to my first festival until after I had had the last baby, so I was 32, and then that kind of, like, kickstarted the journey, like, an actual true fitness journey. Because I always was active. I would run. I was part of a running club for, like, moms, so, like, that's how I stayed in decent shape. My adult life was just, like, running. But I didn't know proper nutrition. I didn't know anything about lifting weights or progressive overload or any of the stuff I know now. The thing that kickstarted that was festivals. Um, and that wasn't until, again, early 30s, but mid 30s was when I actually did a whole career change, got certified as a trainer, and then late, after the mid 30 point was when I started a business. So it was like, some people could think like, wow, that's a late start doing all of these things. But I continued to get into better shape the closer I was approaching 40. And so my brain was like, why was I limiting myself to thinking that I needed to have kids before I turned 30? Because those were going to be my best years. And after that, it's all over, right? Which, if you're not taking care of yourself, maybe that's true.
True.
But I continued to take it more seriously throughout my 30s. So then by the time I turned 40, I was just sort of like, that was, like, a really limiting mentality to have, that, like, it was just gonna all be over for me once I wasn't 30 anymore. So, like, that's another thing too, I think that changed, or clicked when I turned 40, was, like, there's a lot of things that I feel like I'm just getting started on, and I don't really like, yeah, at some point there's gonna be a drop off. I don't know when it is. I don't think it's anytime soon because I don't want it to be. So that's that has shaped a lot of the kind of mom I am, just me as a person in general, the kind of trainer I am. Um, and that is part of, like, the message I want to spread here, is like, a lot of the limitations we feel are ones that we put on ourselves. And that can be actually a really big deal. So, um, yeah, that's sort of
Oh,
me and my, like, as, like, a real quick and dirty description of my journey here. We can get into that more, but, like, that's my mentality, I think, in a nutshell.
awesome. I'll talk about myself a little bit. I'm 33. I grew up in the Boston area, little south. I went to undergrad there for pre med, and then I went to physical therapy school. So I knew I wanted to do something that was taking care of people, but at the time I didn't want to be a nurse. And exercise physiology was really interesting to me. I just loved working out. I did I played soccer for a little bit in high school, but I wasn't good enough or like intense enough to hang with the serious people. I was like, okay, it's not for me. So I was more of like a solo um athletic person. So I ran track, played tennis. Tennis singles was great for me. It was my own game. No one relies on me. If I fail, I fail. If I do well, I do well. But I was always going to the gym, probably starting at like 14 years old. And then went to undergrad in Boston, had a great time. And I've always liked to go out and, enjoy parties, but I never went out to like music events, probably until the end of undergrad. I went here and there, but my real music life started when I went to Miami for PT school. So, physical therapy school, I met my husband there, who's also a physical therapist. And while we were in school, we definitely enjoyed all of the Miami nightlife. And like, it's cool because when you go to Miami, a lot of people think it's just South Beach, but a lot of new music, new artists are coming through in other parts of the cities. Got to enjoy that while we're studying and stress out as fuck. It was a great way to like kind of offset the stress. Went to Ultra with my husband, and then next year Shannon joined me. So that's a little
Yeah.
bit of a
So that
side.
was the year that you went was 2016 because it was the year that I was gonna have Cade. Because Kenny went and met you for one day, I think that
Hmm.
Sunday. I didn't go because I was, like, very pregnant. Because this was March, I had him in May.
Oh yeah.
I had Cade in May, and so I couldn't go, and he met up with you, and so that was your first ultra too.
Hmm.
And then he came back and he was like, "Next year, I'm taking you." And I was like, "Okay, whatever," because I wasn't super into, like, EDM back then. Like, if it wasn't vocal trance, I was like, I don't wanna listen to this." Like, we were super big into always big into rock concerts, metal, like, all kinds of rock shows. Like, we always loved live music, but, like, raving, EDM, it was always his thing. He always loved trance, like, since, 2000, like, 1999, 2000. He's loved it, and then you and him had that in common. Um, but yeah, that's that first ultra that you went to was his first ultra for, like, one day, and he came back from that trip and was like, "I'm taking you next
Yeah.
year." And I was
That
like, "Alright."
yes,
Changed
it's
my life,
definitely.
never looked back. It became
Oh
my
yeah.
entire personality and my job.
Hell yeah. I mean, that was what motivated me to go to PT school down there because it's like I had the option to go in Boston, but I'm like, dude, if I'm gonna be like going for a doctorate program, I'm gonna be stressed out. I'm trying to go somewhere really beautiful so I can like, decompress. So I would like listen to State of Trance by Armin to motivate me to get into school. Fucking go in that school. I don't care if I have to reapply and reapply. And so I was just really looking forward to all that. So I again met my husband in PT school. We got married and then we started travel physical therapy for a while. Um, not necessarily comfortable with some of the realms of physical therapy starting off. Like I wasn't the best PT in the hospital, but I learned what to do so then we could do therapy together. And we moved out to California for a few years, lived in a tiny house, lived that minimalist life, and then came back to the East Coast. And now I'm a stay-at-home mom 6 days a week with my toddler who's just turned 2. I'm pregnant with our second and due in 2 months. And I work once a week as a physical therapist and Pilates instructor. Keep my foot in the door, but I love being home with my son. I'm privileged to be here with him most of the time, and that's where I'm at.
It's so
We
crazy, like, just going through, like, this history because when you were going to school in Miami, we were here in Tampa the first time. I briefly mentioned, like, married my high school sweetheart. He joined the military. He just recently retired from the Marine Corps. We were stationed here, originally from, like, 2014 to 2017, and that was the window of time that you were also in, uh, you know, physical therapy school. I mean, you were here a little bit longer after that, I think after we moved. That overlap and you being here actually is a really important part of like our relationship and our journey with all of this because you would take trains and come visit us. And I feel like that we were always close growing up. But again, I grew up in Texas and you were in Massachusetts. So like we would see each other once a year maybe until we
Yeah,
got a
you
little maybe twice a year if there were visits, but, like, it was a long distance typical cousin relationship. You know how most people are with their cousins, like, you don't need to talk to them all the time, you see them, you all get along, like, it's fine.
Mhm.
There was a decent age gap, so, like, when you're younger, that age gap matters more, so it's like you're the little kid while I'm a teenager, so we only had so many things to relate to, and it
I know, I'm
wasn't
like, "I
until
wanna be older like you."
Yeah, and so it wasn't until, like, when I went up there after you got your bachelor's, where where I booked what I thought was a hotel to celebrate, and it was a hostel.
Hell yeah. That was so ghetto, but awesome.
Woo! Anyway, um, again,
It worked out just
little
fine.
little little side pieces of information like that are gonna be really, really important to understanding the title of this fucking podcast.
Hey, at least
Anyway,
it's been done.
uh, it was probably around then, I feel like I had already had 2 kids. I had Allie and Kellen by then, where I feel like our adult relationship really started. So it's not that we weren't close before that, but the closeness that we have now that is more of like a sister best friend bond kind of started around then. Like once you finish your bachelor's and then like I think I was in North Carolina at that point, and we knew we were gonna be coming to Florida, and you knew that you wanted to come to Miami for, to go to school for physical therapy, and we were both like, "Hey, that'd be really cool because then you can visit more often." And that's literally what happened. Like, we were down here, we bought our house, the house that we moved back into that I'm in now. You got into Miami, you started dating Craig. Um, you guys would visit. I hadn't gotten into raving yet, but it was a thing that you had started to like, again, you always loved the music. You were in a hot spot for that kind of thing. And so our relationship, that's when it started becoming like what it is now. I feel like maybe you feel
Oh,
different.
yeah.
I feel like that's
Def
when it got like really, really close. Um,
Well, the rave setting helps that because, like, you
mhm,
realize that, "Oh my god, I can be myself in this
right.
mass amount of people, not give a fuck, everyone gets to be themselves, no one's judging each other, like,
Yep.
I'm safe to be me." And then you realize, "Oh, I'm safe to be me next to other people that I feel safe with," but, like, you get to open up and unfold, like, on a deeper level with
Hmm.
them,
Yeah.
So that's
So
always.
like, and you're the only person in my family that or our family. Our moms are sisters, by the way. That's how we're cousins. Our moms are sisters. Um, I don't know if any of your other family members on either side, on maybe your dad's side, but I have other family members that do this. You're the only one. So like we were already close and had things in common. Like, even though prior to raving, I wasn't like lifting weights or like a crazy gym person, I still was active. So we still had like that kind of thing in common. Like we liked taking care of our health in some capacity. And then we added in the music component, which music is such a big, important part of both of our lives. So even though I wasn't super into EDM, music has always been a huge deal. Again, prior band nerd, big metalhead, like loved live concert, live music and shows and stuff like that. So music is always like and really this is the case for our family, at least our mom's side of the family. Like music is a really big deal. So even though they're not into raving, like we love and really appreciate like good music. And
Mhm.
so once we were already close with like fitness stuff for the most part. And then once we lived in like a similar, like vicinity, like location to each other where we could see each other more frequently. And then we had the raving thing in common. Like that's when I feel like we got super close because the thing is like right after this happened, right after I went to my first ultra the following year after you did, um, we moved. My family moved to Guam.
Yeah.
So I didn't like, if anything, you would think that we would maybe, we had just started to get really, really close. Not that we would have grown further apart, but like maybe it wouldn't have continued to get closer. But the opposite thing happened because like I fell like completely in love with this thing that you had already kind of liked for a while. So then I had like, so even though you're younger than me, I kind of had a guide with it. But someone else, like the only other person in my family that I could like that I had this like thing that was really important to me in common with. So, like, for me, it, like, made us closer, and again, the older you get, the less, like, an age gap matters. So,
Right.
like, it's just you're just like, "My best
Don't worry,
friend."
you keep me young in some ways because I'm, like, over here being, like, the scrubbiest mom. And then I remember I'm like, "Okay, I gotta, like, have some fashion sense," which I feel like you and Kenny are really good with that, and Craig too, but we keep it pretty chill, but I like, "Alright, I gotta, like, bring it forward. Stop being
Whatever. You're like the coolest person I know, and it's funny because like, everybody that is your friend I remember when I went to your wedding, people just said the nicest things about you, and your mom looked at me and she was like, "I didn't know people, like, felt this way, I guess," and I'm like, "Do you not like, have you met your daughter?" Like, because she's pretty fucking cool, like, no one ever had anything bad to say about you. You're just a
that."
really cool person.
Thank you. So are you. No, I'm so
Um,
excited to do this because it's just like, being our true selves and just sharing that our appreciation for each other with each other, but also whoever's listening.
mhm,
Ultra was huge for us, like life changing, just because of the music itself, but also the environment and you coming to that and like opening up that experience, like it shifted everything. And what was cool is that you guys were in Florida. You left to go to Guam. You go to EDC Las Vegas, and we met there, so we went with you.
mhm,
But then after that, you ended up going to California, and then we started doing travel PT in California. So then we got to hang with you for a few years, like here and there. You were in San Diego the whole time, but me and my husband were traveling from north down to south, back up to mid California, all over the place. And that was a really great experience because the music scene out there is totally different than it is on the East Coast, and just enjoying the fact that both of us are travelers in a way, just
yeah,
different in a different sense. Like you're a military wife and you lived in places for 3 years at a time. My stints were usually like 3 months to 12 months,
yeah,
but still, it's the same type of mindset where you have to up and leave multiple times
mhm,
and manage to stay stable mentally and
mhm.
physically throughout all of that
Yeah,
change.
because a
Exactly.
lot of things don't go according to plan for most people. It just you have to figure it out. But kind of to circle back, like, into our relationship and kind of, like, our little origin story, like, separately and together. Again, the raving thing kind of started the first time that I lived here in Tampa and you lived in Miami, and then that's how I got into festivals. That inspired me to take a look at the things that I was doing. Because before that, like I said, I was part of a running club. I would do, like, 5Ks, I did 2 half marathons, like, I'm not a fast runner, it was more of just, like, for completion purposes and because it was the easiest thing to do, especially once I had kids, was push my babies in a jogging stroller. Like, I was a stay-at-home mom, I wasn't gonna pay for childcare just to go to the gym when I didn't know what the fuck I was doing anyway. Um, I did the diets. I did the South Beach diet. I did Beachbody. I did Weight Watchers. I did all of the fucking stupid ass diets because I didn't know any better. And I was always I was not someone who was ever overweight or struggle with my weight, so I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like that's the place that I'm coming from. I've always moderated my weight, but never changed my body composition in a way, like, I looked fine, but I always kinda wanted to get a little bit further than that, like, look like I worked out, and I couldn't ever really get back or in any point below that set point that, that my body had. Um, and I didn't know why because I didn't know what I didn't know, and it wasn't until raving, which again, is a direct connection to you because when I went to my first ultra the following year, you were there as my little, like, rave guide, through ultra and stuff. And then we had that bond, like, on top of the other bonds we already had. And so then when we moved to Guam after that first Ultra and EDC that year, I had nothing else to do but go to the gym. Like, I had my older 2 kids were now going to school. I was at home with 1 child, which if you have more than 1 child, you're soon gonna realize this. Once you have to balance more than 1 kid, anytime you have just 1 kid, it's like having no kids. You're like, "I can't believe that I thought this was hard." Because once you add to that and then figure that out, because 'cause you're always gonna figure it out, like, you have no other choice.
Right.
Whenever you're left with just 1, it's like a vacation, like, you only deal with 1, and so I had been used to 3, and the older 2 are now in school, and so I was down to 1 again, and I was like, "What do I do with my time?" So, like, we lived a mile away from the fitness center on base because we lived on base. So, like, pretty much every day, I was walking a mile to fitness center. I would work out in the mom room, like, with my little Pinterest workouts and walk back. So I was highly active. I was walking all the time. I
Uh-huh.
w- didn't really know what I was doing, but I met another military spouse that same year, like right after we moved, who was a trainer. She taught me about macros. I didn't know anything about macros. She taught me about them, that and then my own research because I like started to geek out on it. And then she taught me more about progressive overload, like how to actually like, you should be sticking to the same program for a while. She wasn't writing my program. She was just sort of like guiding me, and then I would kind of like take that information and run with it and do my own research. Um, and that is when my body started to change. Because when I decided I was going to learn about macros, I really wanted to give it a fair shot, and so I looked at it like a science experiment on myself. Like, I wanna see if this is really gonna work like people say it's going to. So, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go all in, and for 8 weeks, nothing passed my lips if I didn't weigh and measure it, because that's, for me, how I wanted to teach myself whether or not it worked, because at the end of the 8 weeks, I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to say like, give a fair opinion on it if I had kinda, like, fudged it the whole time. So, like, I've never been since then, never been as precise as I was then, but it's because once you do that, you kinda learn the things like, the rules you can bend, like, that's just like that with everything. But, like, when I was learning, I was, like, on it. And then I started, like, properly lifting weights, and my body started to change and I was hooked. And at that point in time, when we lived in Guam, we knew that we were always gonna fly back to Vegas once a year for EDC. Like, that was our, like, mommy daddy vacation. So that was my goal. I tied my training, fitness, my personal goals to getting ready for EDC. And I was at the gym so much throughout the course of the 3 years that we were stationed there. Eventually, people started asking me for fitness tips or asking me if I was a trainer or why wasn't I a trainer. Then I made friends with another trainer, and was like, "Why don't you just get certified? Like, you keep talking about, like, once the baby, the 3rd one is in school, what are you gonna do?" Like, I'm not super passionate about being a graphic designer anymore, like, and even if I was, I'd probably have to go back to school to learn programming and what people are doing now because, at that point, I've been out of it for over a decade. Like, I'm not up to speed on anything.
Right.
Um and I just didn't want to, so I was just like, "Well, I'll just work in the school district, be a substitute teacher." Nothing wrong with that. I'm not throwing shade at that, people who do that, but I had found a passion at
Mhm.
that point, and people were like, "Why don't you do that?" And I had Fit to Rave as sort of like a private my own, you know, Instagram account of just, like, keeping myself accountable for my own fitness goals, and when I certified, Kenny asked my husband, like, "Do you think I should change the handle? Like, what should I do? Like, what should my business name be?" And he was like, "I think you should keep it." He was like, "You're not the only one who uses that as, like, a driver, like, a motivation for fitness, like, and it's good to have, like, a niche, like, target audience." And he registered the LLC for me, like, I he it was kind of like a surprise one
No.
day. Yeah, he was like, "You're doing it." He's always been the one that, like, I'm the one that, like, can kind of, as much as I talk here, give in to self-doubt sometimes or, like, be immobilized by making decisions. So, having him, you know, is why I'm here and why I'm able to think about half of the things the way I am is because he will make the decision, and then you just go. You just go, like, the here. So he was like, "Nope, don't think you should change it." And a few months later, he registered the LLC for me, and I got that in the mail, and I was like, "Alright, guess we're fucking doing this thing." And then that happened in 2020. I certified in the middle of COVID, so my initial plan was always to do in-person training. Couldn't do that because then we moved to California, and that was a very shut down state. So I had to go directly into online training. And then once things started to open back up, I did both in person and online for a little while as the online kind of just grew, and that took a while. And then eventually, once I got to a place where I was comfortable going back to being fully online, I stopped in-person training and here we are. But through all of that time, like, you were always on this journey with me. Like, you were here when I started raving. You were part of it when I got into fitness, and that was another thing that we had in common because now you were a physical therapist, so, like, you were even more into it than you already because you were always athletic and active in ways that I was not, but once you became a physical therapist, now you had this knowledge that, like, me and you were ping-ponging off of each other because I was deep diving into fitness and, like, nutrition and stuff, and, like, really being passionate and falling in love with this thing that, like, I was never interested in before that you had always been interested in, but now you, like, had a degree, like, a fucking doctorate in stuff. So, like, I was learning about things, so I'm super thankful that I had you as, like, a resource that I feel like a lot of trainers don't have someone more knowledgeable on that field, and I had you. And so then when I started my business and I would be stumped on things, I had you to refer to. And then you came to the same state I ended up in California. So you've always been part of my business from the beginning, and from the fitness component to the raving portion, like, you've always been part of this. So
And
having
as your client too,
and as
because
my client, yeah, but it was sort of like an attester. Yeah, you get free programs from me, right? But, like, I get free legitimate physical therapy advice from you, and
totally.
you're also you helped me. You were like my guinea pig when I was learning how to design programs that made sense or that were helpful for certain, especially for certain things. You try them first and give me feedback. All my queuing write-ups and form executions, it's like, does that make sense? Did I write that correctly? I feel like I've helped you to probably, like, because you're very, like, super detailed with your descriptions on stuff, and you
Mhm.
have so much information and knowledge, but, like, to a regular person like me who has not gone to school for this, I'm like, "Okay, how can we put this in layman's terms so,
I
like, a
know,
normal person can make sense of this?"
terms that are digestible, but
Right,
also
digestible pieces of information, because I barely understand what the fuck you're talking about, and I know some stuff.
I know I like get super zeroed into like nerd talk and I like have trouble getting myself out of it because it's a different language, when you're speaking in
Yeah.
this certain realm.
Well,
But it's important too to mention that like as a PT, like we learn such a spectrum of information from like, athletic population all the way to people that are on their deathbed, or people that are recovering from surgeries and traumatic injuries and stuff. So it's really important for therapists, trainers, anybody that's a professional of sorts, like to have accountability. And so, although I could go to the gym and set myself a workout, I really wasn't that organized and could not really make too much progress with weight for like compound lifts. I really had only done a little bit of training for, um, you know, heavier lifting with some of my PT classmates, but I never was doing it on my own. I didn't feel 100% comfortable with the form and just approaching those workouts. So you gave me the program and also like the confidence and instruction from your experience to help me as well because it's funny because although I'm a physical therapist and I take care of people, I have had challenges taking care of myself and applying some sort of self-care to me. And
mhm.
even things that are more PT related, how can I take care of myself that, on a level that's actually like I needed therapeutic exercise. Like it's so silly because I know what to do, but I don't always apply it.
Like,
Yeah.
I've never worked out less than when I became a trainer. I work out way less now as a trainer running a business than I did before I started this whole thing. Um, Again, because that's just not you're not the priority. You're not just worried about yourself anymore. You're worried about, like, your clients or your patients or whatever it is. But it's still important to, like, maintain your own physical and mental health, and I
Practice
think
what you
that
preach, because if
yeah,
you
practice
practice
what
what
you
you
preach.
preach, then your experience, like the way that you're able to tell others about how to go about things themselves, it's so much easier when you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you just did that lift or I took that class with my like the place that I work for PT, they offer dynamic strength training. And so sometimes my client that day or patient that day will have gone to the same workout class that I went to, and
Mhm,
so I can understand the movement patterns exactly as he did them, and it just all comes together better because I'm right there with that person. You're right there with your clients.
mhm.
You are going through the same shit.
Yeah, 100%. You
You're helpful for me too because again, like I was working in the hospital setting for 3 years, and so I'm coming
Mhm,
back now into working with an athletic population, which there's a lot of similarities between a PT who works with an athletic population and a personal trainer.
mhm,
And so a lot of my workouts that I've been doing over the years with you, I've been able to categorize things in my mind and progress people further than some physical therapists usually would because sometimes we can be too conservative and not push people. And so I've been able to use a lot of your programming to help me understand how to push people past my comfort zone and their comfort zone. It's like actually you
mhm.
should be able to do more and then adjust it so it's a little more therapeutic in the sense of it being maybe a little, different factors, but
And
like
it's
it just play off of each other,
yeah.
what we both do. So it's just like the perfect little blend. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think too, the reason why this works so well is like or and why we're so close is we're both the kind of people we are in general, the kind of people we are, but also how we work professionally when it comes to like our jobs is we're not black and white with stuff. Like and I think that so much stuff, especially that you see online or in, the fitness or the any sort of medical field is so like dichotomous and black or white. Like this is the way and this is not the way. And when you actually work with like regular people and are a reasonable person, like there are very few things that are like black and white when it comes to this stuff. Like, yeah, obviously there's like,
It
you
all
know,
depends
certain rules, but, like, "It depends" is my answer for a lot of stuff, and it's not because I don't know, it's because I don't know about
you.
that person's situation specifically, and so many different variables matter before
Mhm.
I can, like, give a valid, like, opinion or, like, answer to whatever the question or the problem is, and you operate the same way when it comes to physical therapy stuff, so it works really well together because it's like, well, I need to know more information before I can, like, give an answer, an opinion on that, but that's how we operate with our jobs, but that's how we operate with, like, literally everything, and then
Yeah.
that's why we're so close, like, even when it comes to, like, friendships, it's like, things in life are just not black and white. They're
And
just
there's
not.
not a lot of quick fixes either,
There's
and
not
that
a lot of quick fixes, like,
changes your mindset.
yeah, it depends.
We
That's the answer to most things.
Yes, we're on the same wavelength with a lot of stuff. So,
Mhm. Yeah,
and
and what again, now, like, initially when this started, you weren't even a wife. You were a girlfriend, and then you were a fiancé, and then you were a wife, and now you're a mom. So then now we have this other layer of stuff because you saw me, since I'm
Mhm.
older than you, for a long time, like, manage, children, and then I got into raving at festivals, so then you saw me manage children and doing this new hobby that I discovered, and then you saw me doing that with, like, fitness.
Mhm.
And now you're a mom, and so now we have this other thing that because we were related to the fitness and the festival part, but, like, the mom thing, it was like, not that that was an issue, but that wasn't something we had in common. And now we have that in common, so now it's like
Triple threat.
yeah, for real. But it's like, it another whole 'nother thing of, like, how there's just not you'll ask me, like, "How did you handle this XYZ mom thing?" And I'm like, "For which kid?" Because it has been the same for all of them. So you just learn that, like, there's a lot of things that are not clear-cut answers. It's what works for one person or one kid or in one situation as a mom, it's not gonna work in the other situation. So it just makes you a lot more you have to be flexible. Um Not type A.
Yeah. No hate, no hate.
No
Yeah.
hate.
You have to bend so you don't break, basically.
Yeah.
Have to be able to
Mhm.
go, shift things because it's not the same as when you're by yourself doing things for yourself.
So, I feel like we've talked a lot longer than I anticipated we would, but I should have known better, which kind of
Classic.
proves a lot of the points that we've already made here. The whole purpose of this episode is kind of like to give a little bit of a background on each other individually, but then also our relationship together. And I feel like there's so many things that like we could go into tangents, like further tangents and dive deeper on in other episodes
We have
for
promise.
sure, which we will. We definitely will. Like I think we touched on a lot of stuff that will definitely go further into on like separate episodes.
Yes, looking forward to it. There's so much to cover and just so much to dig into when it comes to all these topics. So
Yeah,
excited to come
this is
and
just the beginning. I'm super excited. That's it for today. See you next
peace.
time.